welcome into Believe in Kentucky. My name is Vinny Hardy. I got Cole Park is headed to Columbia to cover the Cats against South Carolina, but we got a wonderful guest in his place this evening. I've been hoping, me and Cole have been talking about trying to get some Bills knowledge in here because we got a lot of former Cats that play for the Bills. So as you see here, we have a former Bills offensive tackle, number 70 O lineman for Buffalo. John Fina is in here. He is a co-host on Overreaction Buffalo, and as we mentioned, a former Buffalo Bills offensive lineman. John, honored to have you. Thank you for taking the time to do this, and I'm just honored to be able to talk with you, man.
Yeah, Vinny, great, man. I'm having a great time with this podcast and stuff. I get to meet great people like you. And I'm a fellow Wildcat. I graduated from the University of Arizona, Wildcats. You got Kentucky Wildcats. So, yeah, I love talking about my beloved Buffalo Bills. You know, I spent 10 years there and love the city of Buffalo, and it's in my blood now, man.
That is, and look, I remember you playing. Remember you playing there with the Bills. And you finished up for your last year back in the home state, right? For Arizona with the Cardinals.
Oh, yeah. Did one rough year with the Arizona Cardinals. But, I mean, they got sweet uniforms. We weren't a very sweet team, but we looked good doing it, whatever it was.
So you've been East Coast, West Coast, but born in Minnesota, right? Started kind of in the middle.
Well, you know, born in Minnesota, then my parents threw me in the trunk of the car with the other four kids, and my dad finished his residency and decided they didn't want cold anymore. So he moved to Arizona in 1969. And, you know, I grew up here, son of a doctor. Always thought I'd be a doctor. And, you know, it's just how things go. You know, back in the old days when it was legal, my parents used to sponsor U of A football players and U of A basketball players. So when I was just a little kid, I was always surrounded by these giants, you know, giants of the gridiron, giants of the basketball court. And we played sports. We wanted to play sports all the time because if not, my dad would have us out on the property with a shovel and, you know, digging trenches and building walls and laying brick and working on plumbing. So we, you know, I'm the fifth. I got four older brothers and a younger sister. And if we weren't doing sports, we were at home, you know, just entertaining. We always had people at our house like crazy. It was like open door policy. It was such a great way to grow up.
Man. So you mentioned that, you know, your parents want to get away from the cold. Definitely cold in Minnesota. You moved to Arizona. So were you hoping to get drafted by a warm weather team? Because, I mean, Buffalo's put you smack into that cold weather all over again.
You know, Vinny, I wasn't a guy that was highly regarded enough to have an opinion about where I got to go. So I know I was a first-round draft choice, but coming into my senior year, there were people that thought I was, you know, like the 30th best tackle in college. I sort of came out of nowhere. And this is the beauty of it, right? I would have gone anywhere to go in the first round. I ended up going to Buffalo. But I was born in Rochester, Minnesota, but my parents grew up in Rochester, New York, which is only 60 miles from Buffalo. So, you know, my uncles and aunts and hundreds of cousins all over, the Maggio families everywhere, you know, people didn't travel a lot, didn't see each other a lot in the 70s and 80s. So I'd see my cousins once every 5, 6, 10 years, you know, funeral or a wedding or something. And me getting drafted by the Bills was just the most amazing gift to my family because my parents came, my family came to at least 6 games a year. And it was this amazing family reunion. It reunited, you know, our family, at least from the Arizona Finas back toward the Rochester, New York Finas. And, you know, it was, I mean, it was poetic and beautiful and wonderful. I mean, I get all sappy on you and I think I am already, but you know, there's nothing better than family and just that chance to reunite my family was just an added bonus. But warm weather, cold weather, people ask me all the time, how do you deal with it? I said, well, I'm not playing football. I wore a coat. And when I went onto the damn football field, you're cold for approximately one play. And then your adrenaline takes over and you're just heated up from the inside out. the last thing on your mind is the cold weather. The first thing on your mind is that, lunatic, crazy, talented SOB across from you you're going to battle with, nearly every play. So I adapted okay. I enjoyed it. I love the area of Buffalo.
Rochester, Minnesota, Rochester, New York. You really can't script that. That is unbelievable, man.
Right? I was blessed, Vinny, just blessed.
That is, and look, we're gonna get to the former Cats that are current Bills and all that, but I just could not ask you, about yourself. And like you mentioned, said you weren't highly regarded, 30th best tackle according to the experts and all that when you were coming out, came out of nowhere. So from experience, being a late first round pick, you land on a good team, you know, and then you get the added bonus of all the New York Finas and Arizona Finas meeting up. But Aaron Rodgers going late in the first round instead of going high to a bad team, you landed, the two-time AFC champs is where you end up landing coming out of college by being a late first round pick. That had to be pretty good.
Well, I got lucky. I mean, when I got to Buffalo, I probably wasn't ready to play. And the good thing was, we had an established offensive line. And during practices on the scout team, I was a center. I mean, I think they had me slotted to be probably a 4-position guy, and they wanted somebody, to work at center. So I took every rep at center my entire rookie year. I was fortunate that I didn't have to play. You know how that is. Some guys excel and some guys get ruined. I don't know which would have happened to me, but I'm just glad I didn't have to go through that. In my opinion, anybody that gets drafted and goes to the NFL is never a bust. It's just maybe it's not the right fit. So by and large, I would say my progression in college, and bear in mind, my oldest son is a 6th-year starting left tackle at Duke, and my younger son is a freshman at Duke on the offensive line. And I talk to Bruno all the time about it. It's like one play matters, and as soon as it's over, it's gone. And you focus on that one play. So I was fortunate in a way. The opening game my senior year, we went up to Ohio State and got crushed. But I played really well against a very well-known guy named Alonzo Spellman. I had a really good game, and that kind of put me on the radar. And then I played very well throughout my senior year. I got invited to go to the Shrine Game. And Shrine Game's all about practices, right? Not so much the game. And I did really well in the game. And I was bigger than everybody thought. Our sports information director had me at 264 pounds. And when I got on the scale, I weighed in at 284. And they were like, what? Who's this guy? And then I had a great combine, ran real fast, jumped real high, interviewed very well. And my stock just started going up. I had probably 16 teams come out to Tucson and work me out. Had a one-on-one workout with Bill Belichick. And, just went from there.
So as a lineman having to run the 40, you ran fast, but do you still think there's something that you should have to do as a lineman?
Well, it's funny because people ask, what was your 40 time? And I tell them, listen, if I'm running 40 yards, I'm either celebrating a touchdown or I'm trying to track a defensive back that just intercepted the ball. I mean, it don't matter. When I'm running 40 yards, I'm virtually useless. Offensive linemen work in spaces that are like 6x6, right? I think it just shows a little bit of athleticism. But the cone drills, the footwork drills, the follow the ball tracking drills, those are really important. I got my vertical up to 31 and a half. Did 21 on the bench. Oh, and I thank Jesus Christ himself because he lifted the last one. I don't know that I was able to do it myself. But Vinny, if you get 20 on the bench at the combine, you don't ever have to bench again. But if you don't hit 20, the scouts and the coaches come out and they're like, we question your strength. They'll get on the bench. But I got to say, hey, I got 20, man. We're good. We're good.
I'm exempt.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Now, according to Pro Football Reference, if I look right,
oh boy,
you got You got 1 target, 1 touchdown as a rookie, and then another target in year 2, and then after that, no more targets. Well, I mean, why did you go into Marv Levy's office and complain and like, "Hey, give me the rock, coach."
No, no. Really short, funny story about that. I was on my rookie year. I played the backside tight end and goal line, and we always threw it to the front side guy. So I kind of started getting a little lackadaisical about my route on the backside. And Indianapolis Sunday Night Football, and I'm jogging through my route, and I look to my left and I see the guy on the ground who normally catches the ball. And I think, wow, who's Jim going to throw it to now? So I turn a little bit more toward him, and he's staring at me with eyes this big. It zings the ball at me like he hates me, and I catch it in my gut. Ball's right here, by the way. I got that damn ball. And I realized when we went back and look at the film, he had to throw it that hard because I almost ran out the back of the end zone. Can you imagine the humiliation and just the verbal beatdown I would be getting? They probably would have come up with a nickname for me that I'd never live down. And then the next one was the following year, AFC Championship game against the Chiefs. And I was running that out route, that short out. And it was just, I say it was out of my reach, that it wasn't a very good pass, but probably any other receiver who's not even on a team anymore could have made the catch. But 1 out of 2 with a touchdown, I'll take it. I got the ball to prove it.
That's right. So Jim was just gunning it in there so you could get your feet together before you did get out of bounds, basically.
Yeah, and if you go look at that clip and you put it in slow-mo, my heels are about 2 millimeters from the back line. I caught it and actually fell back out of bounds.
Just living on the edge, just literally.
Literally.
Man. So listed as 6'5", 300. Both of your sons are kind of built like you as well. Which one are they both just like you? Does one remind you of yourself more than the other? Are they different completely from how you played the game?
Now, Bruno's a body type like mine, kind of squared off shoulders. Roman's shoulders slope a little bit. Roman's a little longer than Bruno and I. He's bigger at the same age. I mean, he's pretty massive for a Fina at 18 years old. He's about 275, 280. Bruno's clocking in about 305, 310. I'm hopeful that he gets a shot. It's his dream. He loves the game. He, by the way, I got to brag for a second here. He just got nominated for the Campbell Award, which goes to the best student athlete in the country. So he's on that nomination list. And Roman, he's like a baby giraffe right now, just waiting to grow into all of his length. And I'm lucky I got, 2 great boys. I got 2 awesome girls. They're doing really well. So mostly my wife's doing, Vinny. You know how that goes. But
I do.
Yeah. And, just lucky to be in the position I'm in with the family that I have.
Yeah, well, congrats on the Campbell nomination. I don't have the girl dad. I do have 2 boys like you. Wouldn't trade them for the world. There's part of me that will always wish we had a girl, but that's not going to happen. Got little nieces and cousins that'll have to be close enough to having a daughter, but wouldn't trade the kids for the world. I'm with you.
Well, babies are a gift from God. So all you can do is deal the hand you're dealt, be a good dad, and lead those kids, toward good decisions and their greatest success.
Absolutely. Why do you think your SID listed you at 264? Lighter than what was the reasoning, you think?
I have no idea. I mean, I had a couple of conversations with him that I can't even repeat. But yeah, the book said I was 264, and I was like, what in the hell? People got to take their job seriously and have attention to detail. And he missed about 20 pounds of detail.
Absolutely. And I'll be remiss. I got to tip my cap before we get into Dion and Ray and Max. You mentioned that you're a Wildcat as well, being from Arizona. And in '97, y'all got us in the championship game, and we still feel like we should have got that one. We Naz Muhammad missed some free throws, and Miles Simon and those guys, y'all got us in overtime, John. It kills me to say it, but Lute Olson and you guys, You guys cut the nets down on us, y'all
I,
guys.
I will tell you this. This might make you feel better. The Arizona Wildcats basketball national championship is the best national championship of all. We beat 3 1 seeds to get there. Never been done before, probably never happen again. My wife and I, we weren't engaged or married at the time. We had just arrived back that day from a trip to South Africa. And I was trying, watching the TV in her tiny little New York apartment on a screen about the size of my hand. And I'm like, my idea was to go to a sports bar in Manhattan and go watch it, but I couldn't. I was so tired from the time change, and she was dead asleep. And I'm like practically holding the TV up in the air watching it. It was pretty fantastic. It was great to be around Lute Olson. He was always around the gym, and what a terrific guy. God rest his soul. Really turned that program around.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And Oscar Combs, who's like a Kentucky historian, he founded the Cat's Paws, and my co-host Cole covers Kentucky for us. The first publication that was just devoted to doing sports for a school, way ahead of his time. I'm born in '77. He like founded it way back then. He owned a newspaper in my little small hometown, sold that to start the Cat's Paws, and then the rest is history, as they say. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Kentucky made a run at like Lute Olson in the 80s trying to get him to come, and he was in Lexington and staying at the Hyatt, and they was talking and it didn't work out, and he goes to Arizona, and the rest is history for you guys. But there was a little brief period where it was maybe thought that Lute was coming to Lexington, and back in those hotel talking meeting sessions, but it didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
Sure.
So here's a funny story. Before Lute was hired, Arizona basketball had a really terrible coach, and people were giving up their tickets. My dad had 4 seats that were pretty good. And when everybody was giving up their tickets, the ticket office reaches out to him and he says, "We got anything better?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got 4 seats right behind the team bench." And my dad's like, "I'll take them." And they're like, "Really?" So since 1985 and currently today, we have 4 seats right behind the Arizona basketball bench.
Oh, wow.
And it was, they put a railing up now, but it used to be in the old days, I'd stand up, I'd give Lute a handshake before the game, tell him good luck. And it's a really cool experience. So if you watch any Arizona Wildcat basketball and they pan across the bench there, you might see me in the background, Vinny.
Absolutely. I'll make a point to look for you now, John. Now that I know that for sure. You play left tackle. Bruce Smith played right defensive ends. What was that like in practice every day once you stopped taking reps at center and they slid you out to tackle?
Humiliating. So after my rookie year, Will Wolford, who went to school at Louisville, he went to the Indianapolis Colts, and they said, "You got the job to lose to play left tackle." So I showed up to training camp, and Bruce Smith embarrassed me every day in training camp. I mean, I couldn't touch the guy in one-on-one pass drills. I grew up real fast and had to learn what it was like to just get smoked every time. And I'll tell you, this is a true damn story. Finally, in training camp, one day I beat Bruce in one-on-one, and I ran in a circle around the drill celebrating that I beat him once. I couldn't believe it. We watched that film that next day. I kept saying, "Coach, run it back, run that flame," because it didn't happen very often. Bruce is just a fantastic player. He had these guys that can blend speed, strength, length, and counter move are really the hardest guys to deal with. You think Myles Garrett, we have Joey Bosa right now, and people always want to know, like, what's Joey Bosa doing? And I said, it's not that he doesn't quit a rush, is that he has a second move off of every failed rush. And that's what offensive linemen hate. So, Vinny, you rush me and I get my hands up on your jersey and I got you stoned right there. And if you just start pushing and leaning up against me, that's like taking a day off for me. But if I get you there and all of a sudden you're trying to break hands or you're turning your shoulders and trying to leverage, get under my pads, now that's a whole day sucker, right?
Mm.
So I just look at, I coached high school football and I would talk to the defensive players, even though, I coached O-line, and I'd tell these kids, every single pass play, you have to use a move, whatever it is, your first, second, third, or fourth best move. And you can't lean on a guy and stop. You got to counter even if you're beat. Because if you just go up there and lay against a guy, you're making his life easy.
Mm.
So Bruce never made my life easy, but I learned a lot, and I learned how to get beat with and try to hold on to some pride. But it made me a much better player.
So the combination, like you mentioned, the size, strength, and speed. If he, Reggie White had the hump. He was just, toss you aside. Was Bruce's just his counters? Was it his bull rushes? Was his swim? What was it? I mean, or he just mixed it all up and you didn't know what was coming? What did he do?
Yeah, so Bruce was really good at the arm over, and he had a terrific first step from a 2-point stance or a 3-point stance. So, we see a lot of players now that want to go from a 2-point stance that don't have that ability, like Von Miller, to just take that quick step. So, if you can't do that, I say get down in a 3. But Bruce could get to your edge really quick, and his arms were so long, he could get on your pads, but he'd also set you up and come underneath. And he had a really good ability when he would come underneath. He didn't always duck the shoulder and rip up, but he could almost like the Magic Man. Now you see me, now you don't. And he'd come
teleporting.
Yeah, he'd almost be standing up, and then he'd just whoop, and be kind of flat across your body. And then when his feet would hit the ground, he had great acceleration forward. Not much of a bull rush guy, but his pass rushing skill set was terrific.
So for the most part, were games like a day off for you after going against Bruce every day, or were there still some guys that I got to work today?
Well, that trick, right? You could talk yourself into anything. So you always treated the guy across from you like he was an all pro. You never wanted to think any guy wasn't any good, because, then you might have some mental lapses and physical lapses. For me, Vinny, I was never the biggest guy. I was never the strongest guy, but I always blocked the right guy, or tried to. I stayed off the ground, and I didn't commit penalties. So I would my game was, I'm not going to murder you. I'm not going to break you up and beat you up. I'm going to try to bore you to death with really good technique. Like, I'm always going to look the same on every play, and I'm going to get low, and I'm going to try to give you as little attack surface as possible. And if you go upfield, I'm going to turn and run you. But the good news for me was, during the season, we didn't practice 1v1. So I didn't have to see Bruce after training camp. Enough training camp was enough for my entire life, right? I got to see him in about 4 or 5 or 6 training camps, and you know what? That's enough for one lifetime.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I listened to your episode of Overreaction Buffalo. You guys were talking about Deone Walker, but you mentioned a thing called abandonment and adaptability. Did you learn that yourself when you got in the league? Was there some lineman that passed that on to you? And what did you have to abandon and adapt once you got to the next level, leaving Arizona?
Well, that's kind of a recent thing. I like to think I'm a thinker, and people will tear apart a guy in the first or second round that doesn't succeed, and well, why was this guy a bust, or why didn't he make it? And I try to think about potential reasons that things didn't work out. And the transition from the college game to the pro game is beyond description. Everybody is a player at the pro level. You could still go play in college, and there just aren't enough guys, because there's 135 Division I schools to have marquee defensive end on every team. So you're not always going against the creme de la creme, but once you get to the NFL, you are. And I keep thinking, like, some guys who are super big, who toss people around in college, they can't do that at the next level. So they've got to abandon this thought process that I can just crush anybody that I want. I'm the biggest, baddest dude on the block, right? And then they have to adapt and think, well, what do I need to do to succeed? Maybe I can still use my size, but I got to work on my pad level. I got to work on my footwork. And it's just it's just a way for me to rationalize guys that are Olympic level or world-class athletes that don't make it in the NFL. What happens? And you can see that in some people. They stick to what they did in college, and it just doesn't translate to the pro game. For me, Vinny, I wasn't good enough to have anything to abandon. I think for me, it was my adaptability was understanding that I wasn't going to be able to get away with anything without perfect technique. So I kept grinding on my technique, and I kept trying to get myself a little bit lower. And I was lucky. I had a great college offensive line coach who was early on one of the great thinkers about offensive line technique. And I learned stuff from him. So everything I did in my stance for balance and understanding what foot I wanted to move first and go through that kind of thought process helped me at the next level. He told me, the play, the snap count. Now think, what's the worst thing that can happen to me on this play, and make your first step do something to mitigate that, right? Your first step is the most important thing. So if you got to go to your right, don't step under your body and take what we call a bucket step. Make sure you're able to gain ground. So I would mildly change my weight in my stance, so I have more weight on my left, so I could press off and gain ground with that right. And then vice versa. You don't want to give away the run pass back in the days when everybody's in a 3-point stance. So you'd have to figure out a way to get a little bit more weight on your right foot and be able to kick out of that stance. So you got to refine, you got to adapt, and you have to remember that everybody in this league thinks they are top notch. And a lot of them are. So you can't go into it. You got to think you're bad and you're tough and everything, but you also have the respect that the guy across from you has a skill set.
Man. So
long answer. Sorry about that. I get rolling, Vinny. You get me heated up here, buddy.
I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. Used to have a co-host, Jalen Whitlow, was former UK quarterback that was on here, and he would always apologize for nerding out. We'd like, no, man, come, don't hold back. We're here for just when he would get, like you, get fired up. We don't.
Well,
don't
hey, for your viewership that likes to nerd out, I just did my off tackle with John Fina on the Overreaction Pod on Deone Walker. So if you want to see how your Kentucky cat's doing, I broke down about 6 plays, 4 of them really good, 2 of them where I thought, there's some things he needs to do. But by and large, we're really happy with Deone Walker. We are really happy with that cat.
Yeah, we're glad to hear that, because like the whole point of having you 3 former cats on the roster now, Deone Walker, Max Hairston, Ray Davis. In the history of the Bills, we had Art Steele way back, who's one of the greatest Kentucky Wildcats ever. Like Josh Allen just passed him for all-time sacks. I mean, he had the record for forever. Mount Rushmore. Art Steele's in the conversation. His sister Valerie played basketball for Kentucky. Art played for the Bills. I think his last year was like 89. So it was before you got there. And then Stevie Johnson, another UK legend, famous for his catch to beat Louisville to end the streak against them. Stevie got loose. Everybody still talks about it around here. Stevie played wide receiver for Buffalo. That was the only 2 cats to play for Buffalo prior to Ray and Deone and Max on the team right now.
And now we're loaded up.
Yes, exactly.
And Stevie's a great guy. I've met him on a number of occasions. Really class act, really thoughtful guy. He's really, embraced his time with the Buffalo Bills. And made a great career there from being a guy who was overlooked in the draft and just showed up, showed out, and he is widely loved by Bills Mafia.
And I appreciate that. It seems it really like you said, if you're there, you're not a bust. It might not be a good fit. Like Baker Mayfield is a
I was
perfect
just going to
example
say,
of
like
that.
Baker Mayfield.
You know, and so like you said, Stevie, it's an inexact science, and nobody ever nails it. I noticed you're anti mock draft on the show. You mentioned that as well. You've never done one, so because you don't know, and if a different guy goes in different spots on a different team situation, his career could be a totally different,
That's right.
career.
That's
It's
right.
just
Especially for quarterbacks. Wow. Especially for quarterbacks. And I would say corners as well, defensive philosophy. I think most of the other positions, it's pretty straightforward. But for quarterbacks, you got to really find the system that highlights their skill set. For cornerbacks, if you're a press man guy in college and then you end up in a zone team or vice versa, you've really got to get in the film room, and you've really got to work in your drills to understand where you need to be on the field and things of that nature. And it's hard to play cornerback in this league. Oh my God. I mean, you're chasing down some of the fastest, tallest, best athletes in the world, and you don't know where they're going play to play. And you're looking at that hip and you're rotating your hips and bursting. And what a hell of a job that is, Vinny. I mean, my father, I might rather dig trenches for my father than chase down some of those damn wide receivers.
and you said it. You said if you're a press man guy and get drafted to his own team, why are they drafting a press man guy? I mean, it's already going to kind of be difficult for him to adapt, wouldn't you think? Why? I know it's his job. He's got to come in. He's got to work. He's got to fit the system. But maybe draft a more of a zone corner, or if you're a press man team, draft a press. You're already asking for
Yeah.
a lot.
So I think you look at a player, you look at his level of intelligence and what it took for him to get there, and you think he can, the same work ethic, the same desire, you feel like a guy can learn anything, and his overriding skill set is something that you want to have on your team, and it's like any position, right? And the draft is the great crapshoot, right?
Yeah.
You just don't know what's this guy going to be like, and you hit, you miss, and you know
Sometimes a
nobody
square
misses worse.
peg, round hole.
Yeah, nobody misses worse than the Raiders, though.
It's that outside of the division. Is that the team you hate the most as a player?
I tell everybody the same thing. I know we lost to the Dallas Cowboys twice in the Super Bowl, but I don't dislike Dallas. I don't dislike any NFC team except for maybe the Packers. But I hate every other AFC team.
Okay.
Because that was my conference, right? So,
Mhm.
and I mean, hate. Really, it's Miami. They take the cake. That was our rival back then. Everybody, who's a generation behind me wants me to hate New England, but I loved Bill Belichick. He came and worked me out and gave me great news and loved me. And they weren't good when I was with Buffalo. We used to slap them around the ballpark. So,
Yeah.
I saved my anger and my ire for the Miami Dolphins.
I got it. Talk about your coach, Marv Levy. Just turned 100 years old. Uh, First time you met him, you get drafted, you land in Buffalo, you get off the plane, you go and meet Marv. What's just talk about Marv.
Yeah, man, he's one of a kind. When people think football, they think brash, they think loud, they think demanding, cursing. And Marv was just this quiet guy who, you thought might work for your accounting firm. And Marv had everything, the numbers all laid out, the processes all laid out. And he didn't, he wasn't a braggadocio type guy, but when he opened his mouth, you listened because everything he said was poignant, right? He had a point. He didn't talk long, like bore you and tire you out. He would give you either the information you needed and a story that made sense. And he was a World War II historian, Vinny. So Saturday nights before the games, he would talk about what our Allied forces faced in World War II and give you the backstory. And I mean, they were the most motivating, incredible pregame speeches the night before the game. Now he'd get you up before the game. He'd raise his voice, but it was always in a very positive type of way that you felt like hey, I can get on this train. Super smart guy. And he also had a very dry sense of humor. So I went to Arizona. A lot of my friends were from Chicago, non-football, but good buddies. And he comes up to me and he's like, John, I live in Chicago. And I'm like, yeah, Marv, how you been? How things in Chicago? He's like, pretty good. Most of the time I walking down the street, somebody notices me and they say, hey, Marv, how are you? Good luck with those Bills. We love you. But I got to tell you, 4 times I'm walking down Michigan Avenue and I hear somebody go, hey, Marv Levy. And I turn around and there's a young guy about your age. And he says, tell John Fina I said hello. So you got a lot of fans in Chicago, John. And he was just that kind of guy. He loved his players. He treated us like men. And in the very first meeting with the rookies, I was kind of a school nerd. I was going to be a doctor like my dad. So I always bring a notebook and, I got like a dozen notebooks around my office here that I'm always taking notes on for work. And I show up to the meeting and I got my notebook and he comes up and he's like, okay, guys, I got 2 rules. And I'm like, okay, I'm about ready to write these rules down, take notes. He says, my first rule is be on time. And I'm like, okay. It's pretty good. I got that one. I don't even have to write that one down. Be on time. And he says, my second rule is be a good citizen. You do those two things, you do them all the time, everything else is going to be okay. And I was like standing there with my pen, like, all right. I mean, he's been around a lot longer than I have. I mean, he turned 100 this year, Vinny. He looked like he was 100 years old when I got drafted to the Bills. I mean, the guy's never changed. I looked at down the street from my house. Some of our kids' friends, literally like a 30-second walk from my house. Our friends, the Milos, called us in and said, I want to show you something. My grandfather brought this yearbook over. And I'm like, okay, what am I looking at here? And they pull up a University of New Mexico yearbook from hell, if I know, the 60s, I think it was, maybe the 50s. And they're flipping through it. They get to the football team and they're like, who's that? And I'm like, oh dear God, Marv Levy was a coach at the University of New Mexico, like before we even had indoor plumbing in the West. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, he looks the same as he did when they drafted me in 92.
he looked 100 in the 50s. So he just
I'm telling you, I say that in jest. He's always looked good, and what a great guy. I mean, just absolutely adore that man. And I was fortunate enough to play for a guy who was, just treated guys like men. You were late for a meeting. He didn't yell at you. He just took it out of your paycheck. He didn't belittle you and berate you on the sideline for a bad play. He'd come over and he'd just say, hey, maybe you could stay on sides and we could get a playoff. All right. That makes sense.
Right. Touche, coach.
Yeah.
So Ray Davis was there a year before Deone and Max. Got featured a lot on the Hard Knocks, this past season. So what was you guys' thoughts on Ray, or your impressions of him when you saw him coming out of Kentucky?
So big fan of Ray Davis. He is the yin to James Cook's yang, right? Mm-hmm. So James is gonna be a little shiftier when he takes the ball, a little bit more of a slasher. Ray tends to be more of a downhill guy. Big guy, right? Though he's about 220 pounds, strong runner. I thought what he did last year was really good. And I thought there might be a little bit more battle this year, depending on the contract situation with James Cook. Mm-hmm. Now that they have the deal done, I think they really want James to carry the most of that burden. Now, that's not to say that Ray isn't the reliable guy that he thinks is. His numbers aren't great. It's only 3 games in. He's only got about 10 carries for 26 yards. So his average isn't great either. Yeah. But I like his skill set, and he's everything I hear just from his upbringing, the history, the big brother situation that he went through. Those are the guys that you want on your team. And I think he's the type of guy who understands his role. He's not going to make a lot of noise. He's going to get onto the field and just give you the best he's got. And he's doing that week in and week out. You know how this game goes. I mean, knock on wood, hope none of your favorite players have a nagging injury. But I have supreme confidence that if Ray has to step in and take a larger role, that whether he's taking the ball from Josh Allen or a pass from Josh Allen, I think he's still a great fit. It's the nuance of the game, trying to, I'm not going to run over guys like I did at Kentucky, right? Against our opponents. I'm going to have to be a little bit smarter, lowering my pads when I'm hitting line of scrimmage, understanding the down and distance. What am I really trying to achieve here? Running plays are designed to go for 4 yards. You get 3 of them, you get a first down. You get 3 of them, you get a first down. So you take your moments, right? Don't sacrifice 3 yards for -2 because you're trying to pretend that every play is a touchdown. Get the ball, secure it, get what you can, get back to the huddle, let's go again. And I think he's got that attitude.
Yeah. And he was transferred to Kentucky from Vanderbilt, but the year he was there, everybody just fell in love with him. His story, the type of guy he is, everything he'd been through, but just resilient and, positive. And you guys are getting that same guy. And I think you've already seen it in the short time that he's been there. The Bills fans have already known it. You guys are getting to see that he's just, that same kind of guy. That's how he is.
Yeah. And when it comes to the NFL, I mean, I got my team. You probably got your team, which it ought to be Buffalo now with all these cats on that team. But I root less for stars. Outside of Buffalo, I root less for stars and flash than I do for people. And when I get a good people story, you got me. I'm hooked. It's easy to be a Ray Davis fan.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So Max Hairston coming out of Kentucky, was hurt now, hasn't been able to show what he can do. But what were your thoughts on what you saw before Buffalo selected him?
Yeah, I mean, he added a dimension to the defense that we needed, a guy that can track with speed, right? I explain this to a lot of people. Playing cornerback is not about blanketing a guy all the time. It's about recovering from a bad leverage position, right? A guy that can make up distance, guy that can elevate. I think he's got that skill set. He is smooth. He was having a very good camp, and then he got this lateral collateral injury. And there was a blurb in the news today about Sean McDermott or Brandon Beane. I think it was Sean, the Bills head coach, saying, well, we don't know. And I don't think it's so much the injury. It's just that time passing from training camp until now, let's say he's perfectly healthy today. I mean, when are you game ready? Where are you going to get the live reps that you can get in the preseason or in training camp practice that'll get you ready for a game where you're not a liability, just not by physical ability, but just the nuance and understanding of having been there. There's a lot to get to for him. I'm still, I still keep my money on him. I still got some units down on him. I think he's going to be fine. We're 3-0. We're in a spot during the season that, we have a favorable schedule for the next 4 games or 3 games. So I think if the Bills are smart, and they tend to be, I'd like to see Max at practice going one-on-one against some of our practice squad receivers. And I don't mean one-on-one like, clapping each other on the back. I mean true beat down drills to get that, that game speed up and get into game shape. So I think he's going to be all right. I still like him as a pick because what we saw in training camp, I think bodes well.
Yeah. So hopefully that can be the case for him, and he can kind of accelerate all the time miss, try to catch up as best you can, like you said, in the practice field, and get himself close to ready as possible.
Yeah,
for sure. So the history of Bills Mafia, when did it start? I mean, were people jumping off tables like in the Jack Kent Cook days, or when did that first really take off, John?
That's a fairly recent phenomenon. You think that's crazy? Go check out Pinto Ron, the guy that gets covered with ketchup and mustard before every game. I mean, that's crazy. Go to the Buffalo Bills Twitter handle, and they're going to show all the rookies Pinto Ron getting covered with, a gallon of ketchup and a gallon of mustard. But Bills Mafia, it's interesting because this is obviously Western New York kind of personality, blue collar, tough, Mafia. You always think tough, right? Of one kind or another. But another thing you think about is a familyness, a resilience. And there's a guy by the name of Del Reed who has a business called 26 Shirts. And that means one shirt every 2 weeks, 26 weeks in the year. And Del coined the term Bills Mafia, or he stole it from somebody, and then he trademarked it. Either way, Del's a great guy, a very good friend of mine. And I think it's just a little bit of that during the drought, 17 years without a playoff game. This is a fan base who is just suffering. And like a family that comes up against adversity, the best thing you can do to stay together is get closer together, and not fracture. So I think when you think about Mafia in a lot of cases, in a good way, not the bad ways, it's a coming together. It's a resiliency against the outside world. Here's this Western New York team from this steel town, belabored by 4 Super Bowl losses and a 17-year drought, and coming together. And I think, look, they got Ravens Flock. We got Bills Mafia. Every team has their nicknames, and I think it's just fantastic. People have embraced it. The table thing, hell no. I did ask somebody asked me, are you ever going to jump through a table? I said, when the Bills win the Super Bowl, I'm coming back for the parade. And I'll tell you, I'll sell tickets for $25 for charity. And if we can raise $4 or $5 grand, I'll jump through a damn table. But my old rickety ass, Vinny, I'm going to come out there. I'm going to need a new hip, right? Probably break my shoulder, dislocate a pinky.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worth the risk, man. I probably have to throw on one of my old buckets to do it, just so I don't bust up this beautiful noggin of mine.
So you can't have that. Can't have that now. Oh man. So do you come back and engage in all the tailgating now? When you come back to Buffalo, are you out there outside the stadium just the food and just basking and soaking it up?
Yeah, in fact, I'm getting on an airplane here in about 12 hours. Going to be back in Buffalo, Syracuse first, Duke at Syracuse, then heading down to the Bills game, do some tailgating. I got 2 games on the calendar right now, hopefully another 1 or 2. Yeah, I love it. I love bouncing from tailgate to tailgate, just having a great time. I took my daughter, Mimi, to a tailgate a couple of years ago, and Bruno came with me last year when we beat the Ravens in the playoff game, and it's really fun. This funny. Bruno's in North Carolina, and I said, well, what are you going to wear, dude? It's going to be like 8 degrees with a wind. He's like, I'm going to wear jeans, and I'm like, oh no. So his mom and I are all over the damn Amazon, like trying to find him some winter gear and ship it out. And he's bundled up, a 310-pound guy with like 4 layers on, looks like he weighs about 410. And Bruno's a good kid. He says, hey, thanks, I would have froze to death.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
absolutely. So when you were with the Bills, did you play the Cardinals in Arizona? Did you have that homecoming as a visiting player?
We did 1 game. Yeah, I played against Simeon Rice. We had a battle for the ages. Man, that guy was good.
Yeah.
The worst part about that though is I had to buy like 100 tickets to the game for like family and friends. And after the game, I got all these people out there. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Did I buy you a ticket? My parents rented a couple of buses.
Oh wow! Yeah, it was serious. It was serious.
Oh, it was serious. Yeah.
So look, John Fina, John Cena. Do people come up and just, since it's so close? I mean, do you get that? I get Hardy Boys. I get Hardy Har Har. All of that. So I gotta ask you: do you get the?
Oh my God! So I got a phone call in the middle of the night on a number I didn't recognize, so I didn't answer it. And it was a bunch of drunk college girls who thought they got John Cena's phone number. And for about every third Thursday night at about 1 o'clock in the morning, I get a call from these girls. John Cena, come out, come hang out with us. Oh my God. And I do get that a little bit. Yeah, ooh, that's me. I do get that every now and again. But look at this, Vinny. I mean, John Cena wishes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, of course.
I got Fina Weena, Feeny Weenie. You know, I got bullied, of course.
Yeah. Kids will be kids for sure.
Yep.
Now, what about Food Wars? You were on there. So what was that like?
So, dirty little secret about John Fina. I'm a food enthusiast. Don't ever call me a chef. Chefs are real skilled, career people. I'm just an enthusiast. That's right. And I guess I'm sort of a D-list local celebrity. So I used to do a lot of food stuff. I auditioned for the next Food Network star.
Oh wow!
When I was in LA, and I ended up making it down to the round of 20. I didn't make it to the final 10, so I didn't make it on the show. I come from a food family. We're Italian, and my mom embraced, Italian food, Chinese food, Mexican food. She was doing Greek and, just really great home cook with 5 boys. And you come in the kitchen and ask when dinner was ready. She'd hand you a wooden spoon and tell you to start helping her out. And we just, half of our family conversations revolve around food. I'm constantly trying to, come up with something, a little twist on something that I've made before. I love cooking and I've been around it. So I get the call every now and again to come to some sort of a food event, whether I'm going to MC it or judge Sonoran hot dogs. So come on out to Tucson. We'll give you a bacon wrapped hot dog.
What'd you say? Sonoran? What's the brand?
Okay. So Tucson is in the Sonoran Desert, Sonoran. And they call them Sonoran hot dogs.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's in Buffalo too, right? Is that?
Or I don't know if they have Sonoran hot dogs in Buffalo, but
it was one of the sponsors on your show. Was like a hot dog.
Oh no, Salins. Yes.
So, okay. I knew.
Yeah, okay. Locally made hot dogs and deli meats. They sponsor the Overreaction off tackle show. It's the Salins off tackle show with John Fina, and you can order the hot dogs anywhere. Famous hot dogs in Buffalo, New York.
Okay, good stuff. I was getting the S's confused. Sonoran and Salem. That's my mistake.
Right. That's right. You got it.
We had a young lady. She plays basketball for Kentucky. Her name is Clara Strack. She is from Buffalo, and she's currently on the team now. Had her on my other podcast, Cats Talk Wednesday, last week, and she is from Hamburg High School in Buffalo. And she said, now I don't know, the place to go for wings. She was a Bar Bills. That was her favorite. I don't know which one was your go-to. Had you been there?
So Bar Bill didn't exist when I was in Buffalo. So a lot of our wings came from your local pizza shop, which were very good. And of course, Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar, which is the original chicken wing, right? They also sponsor my show, and they make fantastic wings. But it is you know what? You want to start a fight? You get on Twitter, tag Bill's Mafia, and tell them you just had the best wings from Wingstop, and you dipped them in ranch and wing nuts and Anchor Bar and Bar Bill, and I mean the list goes on. You just say, yeah, they don't know what they're doing. Come to Kentucky, and listen. People would be dragging you for that.
Be the Mafia in a bad way, right?
Yeah. And look, I gotta be honest with you. There are some things that are just better in some places, and I gotta tell you, the worst wings in Buffalo, New York, are the very best wings in Tucson, Arizona. It's just a completely different deal.
Man, that's unbelievable. I got to get up there and sample some of that for sure. Never been to Buffalo. I got to make my way up there, man.
Yeah. Yeah, when you do, I mean, just put it out there. Just go on Twitter, tag Bill's Mafia, and say, "Hey, I'm coming to Buffalo. Where should I get wings?" And you get about 10 suggestions. You get in your car and go eat a dozen at every location. We'll see how it shakes down.
For sure. Now it looks like you've slimmed down after you played. A lot of guys do that. is it, you know, guys kind of getting together like linemen and hey, we're gonna do this together, or you just kind of do it on your own? You know, like Kittle has the tight end U, and they all do that. You know, like Faneca and all these guys lose a lot of weight after their playing days. Did you just do it yourself, or do you kind of get with guys and hey, compare notes on how we do it, or what?
Yeah, I think everybody's different. I just sort of did it on my own. When I quit playing football, I just stopped eating.
Mm,
And I think that was the hardest thing, is realizing that I was addicted to food. So I
mm,
was freaking out for like 6 weeks because I went from 7,000 calories a day down to 2,200.
wow.
And, your brain is like, hey, you got to feed me so I can, send this chemical to say that you're full.
Hmm.
So I lost, 25 to 30 pounds pretty quickly. And I was kind of stuck. So I really focused on eating less. I wasn't exercising, and then back in March I started doing some yoga, and that's really helped build my strength because I think I was losing a lot of muscle mass.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean I'm down under 250 now
Wow.
consistently for the first time since the big 80s.
Wow, man!
Yep,
Congratulations,
thank
congratulations,
you.
sure. The last thing I got for you, John, the new stadium is coming. Are you excited for it? Are you kind of bittersweet when you see the Bills move to this new venue? Because I mean, y'all played all those great games there at Highmark. So how you feeling about that?
So I love it, and it's not bittersweet. And I'll tell you why, and I'll try to be quick about it. I left Buffalo, started my family, and I didn't have a lot of time to go back for games. And in the entire time I played for the Bills, I never went to the inside of the stadium as if I were a fan.
Mm.
The bathrooms, the concessions, and the walkways and everything. And then I went back and I'm walking, I'm like, this place is a dump. I mean, horrible.
Oh,
Like, you can't keep raising prices for this.
mm, okay.
I mean, I was like, still the urine troughs where you're like standing next to a guy hip to hip, and like the lines at the concessions were just crazy, and the options weren't great. And I was like, and I'd been to a few other stadiums, baseball and football, in between, and I was like, this just ain't cutting it, man. This is not a great fan experience.
Mm,
Um, so you know what? I'm not a sentimental guy, right? I'll
okay.
keep those memories. Those are my memories. They don't belong to the stadium. And the thing next door, I'm telling you, it looks slick. And
Mm,
I'm glad we don't have a dome. Never liked playing in domes. You know what? They're going to heat the field with some new technology. They've got a good cover on it. I think there'll be less wind, which I think is the biggest thing. And I think there'll be some heat retention from bodies and just fact that there's no wind whipping in there. But no, I am not sad to never, go back into that building again.
I got you. You're ready to move on to the next chapter. I got you.
Yes,
I got
sir.
you. So tell everybody about Overreaction Buffalo and all the podcasts and everything that you guys are hosting, because y'all are part of the network as well. So tell everybody where they can find you, Cats fans and everybody listening, and
Yep.
what
And
y'all
listen,
do.
Cats fans, if you want to follow your Cats, you come to the Overreaction Buffalo podcast on YouTube. We actually have a team, a former player, former teammate of mine, and a guy like you, Vinny, smart, big fan of Buffalo Bills. And we added a couple more shows. So we've got the post-game show right after the game. And then I've got my show on Monday, Off Tackle, the Salen's Off Tackle show. And then Jerry Ostrowski does a show on Wednesdays. Look forward at the team we're going to play. We do a show on Tuesday nights where we interview beat reporters. We now have a betting show. So we've got a guy who's just killing it betting on the Bills. It's called Mafia Bets. And then we got the walkthrough with Anthony Marino. So we got 6 shows, I think, now. Go to YouTube. Come check it out. Go listen to my episode and watch the episode on Deone Walker. Really excited about that kid. He's getting better every week. John
Yeah,
Fina on Twitter at John Fina.
absolutely. And that was great stuff on Dion. I was watching it, and like I emailed you or text you or whatever. We learned a ton, man, because it was really, really informative. Whether you're listening or watching, however you want to consume it, you can. And it was good stuff, man, for
That's
sure.
awesome. Thanks for having me, Vinny. Good times, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, John, and taking the time to talk about our cats and the Bills, Marv Levy, and Bruce Smith, and yourself, and Arizona, and all of that, man. We covered a lot, and it was nice to meet you. And thank you for taking the time to hop on Believe in Kentucky tonight.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Good luck to your Kentucky Wildcats. And as I always say, go Bills.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Y'all rate, review, subscribe. Check us out on all the platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Subscribe. Leave us a 5-star rating. Write a little review if you like. We appreciate all of that. It helps people find us and gets the algorithms and all that stuff rolling. So until next time, we say go Cats. Let's go ahead and get our first SEC win against South Carolina. Cole and I'll be back next week to talk about that. Thanks again to Mr. John Fina. Everybody stay safe. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next time on Believe in Kentucky.